Thank you all for tuning in. This is Selena and
Iman.
together we make you plus happy. Each week we bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on our own terms with a dose of laughter.
Remember to like and subscribe at You Plus Happy podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at You Plus Happy. Hey, Selena.
Hi, how was your week?
It was good. It went by fast, but good. How was yours?
Same. Do you have anything fun, interesting, and/or exciting to share with us?
I have something interesting.
Okay.
So we've started to ease restrictions out here. I think I told you we've gone back into a bit of a lockdown and now they've eased restrictions. So I have all these travel plans. So I was talking to a few people about, I want to go to this place called Darwin. And I was asking them about things to do, places to go, and they were giving me all these suggestions. So it's going into winter here. So I'm like, I just want to be somewhere warm on a beach, laid out. And one of the ladies was like, oh yeah, just make sure you don't lay too close to like where the water is. And I'm just like, why? She's like, oh, because it's known for its crocodiles. And I was just like, oh.
Down under.
It is, but it's something that I'm like, I have like little moments that remind me like, oh, like you're in Australia.
Yeah.
Like creatures come out of the water to grab you and bring you back. Like that's, yeah. I mean, not that I know we have alligators and crocodiles in the States, but not in LA. So I don't even think about it.
What is that term that they say in Australia when they're not bothered? Like I'm
not fussed.
That I am fussed over that. We are fussed.
I'm just like, oh, and then another girl chimes in. She's like, oh, but the crocodiles, you don't really have to worry about them. It's more so the jellyfish. And I'm just like, girl, like this is a whole thing that I didn't even like think about. So
when I was in Miami, there was a jellyfish and something hit my thigh. And that's normal in the front of the beach because people kick you by like kids or whatever, like you know. And I looked down, it was a jellyfish, and I ran up to my towel, and I didn't go back in the water that day because I was not trying to get attacked by a jellyfish, and I was alone.
No, yeah. So that was my little reminder, like Iman, you're not in LA anymore. You can't just lay out on the beach and be okay.
I'm glad she told you because
I'm sure they would have signs, right?
What you say?
They have signs somewhere.
Oh, they're fast. They're really. I was listening to something about them. I think though they're too fast. Once you see it, it's over. Like
no, I'm saying like signs on the beach to warn you. But yeah, I'm glad I would assume they would have signs to be
LA has signs for the rattlesnakes up in like Vernon, which is right. But they didn't have signs about the lion when I saw a mountain lion. You know what? Forget it. You need to stay out of the wilderness. Stay in the house. I'm a city girl.
So yeah. So I'm like, okay. I can't just operate as if I was back home, I'm realizing. So
yeah.
It was my moment of reflection.
It's important if you want to stay alive.
Kind of do, it's important.
Oh, child. There was a lot ahead. This is shifting. This is a little different, but I just realized for real, if you want to be successful, you can't eat or sleep. Like that's it. You can't. No, I'm telling you. This week, because we talked about some habits on our last episode. Check it out, guys. The last episode was just Iman and I, and we talked about new habits. And I was thinking about that window between, at night 8 and 10 or whatever. I was like, I'm gonna do productive things. But I was so busy. I only ate one meal. I mean, this is not the diet plan you want to be on, guys. And then I got engrossed in what I was doing. I didn't go to sleep till like 12, and then I had to get up at 5. That was 5 hours of sleep. I was okay, but I was just like, damn, this was the first week where I really did everything I needed to do for all my goals. And I don't think they're unrealistic. It's just, yeah, you want to work out, you want to work, you want another work, you want to do a podcast, you want to read your book, you want to eat. Nah, forget that. Eating's got to go. That's okay.
I mean, I think that one needs to stay, but
I don't know how you do it. Like, that's why successful people, you gotta get things delivered and meal. That's a chef, because I literally didn't have time to make food and eat. Like, it was crazy.
Structured. I noticed that, like, with my stationary bike, I'll read while I'm on my bike because I'm like, that's the only way I'm gonna find time
to get any reading in. Yeah, it was like 2 days I didn't read. That was not happening. But I like that idea. Because when I work out, well, usually, I like hit. So I can't really do it with hit. Unless I listen to an audio book, but it was just, I was like, damn, if I do everything to reach all my dreams, I will. You damn sure can't look at TV. You're not gonna sleep and you're not eating that much. Unless you want to eat like fast food or something. I'm not eating that.
Meal prep, potentially. Fit it all.
I find time. If I get a minute.
Any of our listeners have tips how to fit everything in?
I was like, damn, this is why successful people don't sleep. Got it.
There's this podcast, girl, I listen to all the podcasts, but he was breaking down like how many hours you have in the day, and he was like, sleep 6 hours a day, and if you need 8 hours, just sleep faster. And I was just like, I just thought that was funny. Like, he said it, but he's just like, if you want to get everything done, like 6 hours is probably the max that you're gonna get. If you need 8, sleep faster.
There was one guy, I think he was an artist or something back in the day, and I read his book. I can't remember who it is, but he said he would sleep 3 to 4 hours a night. I was like, I guess he was sleeping faster, because if I get 3 hours of sleep, I will die.
Yeah, I can't function. I need at least 6, at least.
I'm a 7-8 hour girl, and now I realize, like, this week I did 5 hours one night. The other nights were like 6 to 7. That was okay. I guess I'm going to sleep faster and do 6. Maybe I can. I don't know.
Speed it up.
Yeah, all the time I wasted in my 20s. Well, you're not getting it back, so you gotta skip sleep. I don't know. Anyway, that was my revelation this week. I was like, oh, that's why I'm not successful as I want to be. I've been sleeping
and eating.
Crazy, just doing crazy stuff, eating and sleeping. Who do I think I am? Anyways, speaking of success, I'm sure, who do we have on the show this week?
So this week we have Tyshaunda Brooks on the show. She was born in Rochester, New York, and lived there up until 8th grade, and moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where she currently resides. She is an electrical engineer for Nashville Electric Service. While having other career-related goals, Ty sees herself retiring from NES. She was married in December 2004 and finally got divorced in August of 2020. She has one child, a daughter named Trinity. Ty ultimately contributes Trinity to being her biggest level of success in her life.
Without further ado, we welcome Ty Brooks.
Hey.
Hey,
how are you? Doing good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on. I'm excited to jump into this. So we'll hop in. So I guess the first question is just, how did you get started with electrical engineering?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I went to school at Nashville State Community College. I only have a 2-year degree. I was working at a bank at the time. And so I said one day, I was like, you know what, let me get with the Career Center and submit my resume at Nashville State. So I submitted my resume, and then one day I just got a call from a contracting company. And they were like, they thought I was a man at first because of my name, because I had Ty Duke at the time on my resume. And they were like, oh, we were expecting someone else. And I was like, oh no, it's just I'm a female,
Mhm.
and so they called me in for an interview. And then pretty much from there, I've been at NES, and I want to say now maybe 5 years now. So it's been a good while.
I made the same mistake as them. I was like, what time is he coming on?
Oh, that's funny.
I was like, no, it's a woman. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my real name is Tyshaunda, but I go by Ty. Yeah.
That's what mine said, yeah.
But I did that on purpose too, because I wanted people to think that I was a man, because men get called more often than women in engineering positions. So I was like, well, let me just shorten my name to Ty and see what happens. And it worked, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask that, like, do you find it hard? I know you said you've been there 5 years, but being like, are you one of the only females at your company, or like, how is that? Because I know it's a very male dominated field. Like, how do you?
Extremely male dominated field. And I should say I'm the only woman in my department out of 20 male engineers, maybe more engineers. So other than that, the other females work in what you would consider a female position, like administrative positions where they're packaging the engineering jobs, or contacting customers, whatever, but there are other female engineers, but only a handful at NES. So yeah.
How is it navigating that day to day? Like, do you ever feel lonely being the only woman, or how does that feel to work with all men basically in your department?
Well, let me first start off by saying this isn't my first job where I've been the only female. So I'm kind of used to it. Actually, one of my longest careers was at the Men's Warehouse. And I was there for about 13 years, and it was all men. So it's not foreign to me, but I don't know. It's different because I've also worked in property management where it was mostly female dominated. I hated it, to be quite honest. So I actually love, my career with the men that I work with. They're like my big brothers. It's very family oriented there. So I love it.
What's the difference working with like mainly women and versus where you are now, or even at Men's Warehouse?
Yeah, the difference, gosh, what would the difference be?
Because you said you hated it, so I was like, what's the difference?
Yes, I feel like women in a career oriented job they're just a lot more serious and not laid back as men are, I think. So they take everything seriously. And I think I have a little touch of that too sometimes, So it's you almost walk on eggshells a little bit. I think that's the difference. And I'm just saying in a fully male dominated versus a fully female dominated. With a mixture of people, it's different, but when it's one versus the other, that's the difference that I see, is that, women tend to be a little bit more aggressive in a sense. I think because we're always in competition with each other. So when you have a bunch of women together, it's like, it's always a competition, it seems like. So yeah, that's the difference, I think.
Yeah, I had never heard that before. I never even talked about it. So of course I hadn't heard that. What was the turning point? Because you said you did property management, you worked at Men's Warehouse. Where did the engineering come from?
Oh, okay. So yeah. So when I was a teenager, my mentor was an architect, actually. And I would go to her job and look at blueprints and help her out some. But also, my uncle is an electrical engineer. So I always knew I wanted to get into the engineering field. Plus, my family is very artistic. So I draw, I paint. I painted this thing behind, or designed that thing behind you, or behind me, I mean. So yeah, we're very artistic, and I kind of just gravitated to it naturally. Mm-hmm. And then of course money is always a factor. I'm like, okay, there's security here. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I'm like, let me go this route. But actually my degree was in architecture just because of my mentor. Mm-hmm. So that's where I was headed until I fell into this, and I love it. So I could still do architecture, but I probably won't pursue that till I get a little bit older. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you talked about your mentor. We've had guests on before where they have kind of talked about how important it is to have that like mentor and have someone kind of guiding you. Like, how did you get linked in with your mentor? Was it someone like that was in your family, or how did you seek that person out?
Yeah, so my mentor, I actually went to church with. So we went to a church here called, I think it was just called the Nashville Church. And it was a non-denominational Christian church, and all different races. She was a white lady. And we had a really close personal connection. And from there, our relationship just grew. She lives in California. And so pretty much she just kind of took me under her wing and, helped me through my teenage years. And kind of just guided me on the path that led me here. So,
so it's kind of like an organic thing. It wasn't necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It wasn't like it was just, it wasn't like, sometimes there are mentor programs and all that. It wasn't anything like that. It was, more or less like a relationship that, I don't know. I can't even remember how I met her, but yeah, it was like a relationship that we built together. Yeah.
Those are the best kind, I feel like.
Yeah. I'm like, I want a mentor, but I didn't want to go through one of the programs like you're saying. Not that those are bad, but it just doesn't feel organic. I'm like, who am I getting paired up with here? But
right.
Well, real quick, I wanted to touch on, you said you were always gravitated towards art. So that was natural to become an engineer. And I never thought, is that what you said, or architect? Because I never even associated the art world with engineering. And I'm sure some listeners haven't either. Is that normal?
Oh, yeah. Well, architecture for me is it has a lot to do with art in general and design. I mean, if you look at some of the early architecture, like in Germany, or, everything is very on the artsy side or decorative side, when it comes to architecture, especially way like in the earlier, times. And so I think for me, going towards architecture, it was definitely that. Mm-hmm. As far as the electrical, that was, again, something I fell into. And there isn't much design factor. I do draw every day, but there's not much design factor. It's more or less structural work that I do, which is a part of the architectural world. So as far as my career, it's not really related to art as much as architecture would be. But in engineering, there are, like, for instance, just vehicles, we like certain vehicles. We pick certain vehicles because of their design. So in a way, you have to have that, that creative mind that comes up with a design that will attract people. And that has a lot to do with art. Art is here to inspire, to attract us, to get us thinking. It works a different part of our mind. It exercises a different part of our mind when we're doing it even. So, art has a lot to do with engineering and different parts of engineering, I think.
That's so cool to know. I don't think a lot of people associate engineering with art.
Yeah, it's so good to make that connection, because I feel like sometimes when people think of like the art field, it's like, oh, I love doing this, but there isn't much money in it. But it's like there's other avenues you can use that creative.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Yeah.
It's so important for people to know this stuff. Like, because if you don't know, you don't think about it. Engineering sounds intimidating to me. So I know I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So me and Iman started the podcast because we wanted to talk success, what it means to everyone. But on your journey to where you are now, what would you consider your failures, and how did you overcome them or process them?
Well, failures were a big part of my life when it comes to being an engineer, or being where I'm at today, I should say, because they help guide me and mold me, to get to where I'm at. So I'm thankful for all the failures that I had. To name a few, I'll just start with, I was a young mother when I had my daughter when I was 17. So, there were a lot of struggles. I was a young wife. I was married for 20 years. So, there were a lot of times, hard times that delayed my schooling, that, just things that would be a roadblock, that didn't allow me to progress as quickly as I wanted to. I started my career at a very late age. I want to say, how old am I? So yeah, I started at 32. So, there are roadblocks and failures, but the things that I would say is you can't allow anything to stop what you're dreaming about. You gotta pursue your dreams. I think it's what we have this one life we live, and we need to, be able to have a little bit of happiness in it, and, go after what it is that you want. That's what I'll say. And you can't let your failure stop you.
How old were you when you went back to school? I'm assuming you went back to school for engineering because you said your degree was in architecture. How old were you then? Can you tell us?
So I started off at TSU, and then I want to say I stopped for a year. I started off at TSU right out of high school, and then I stopped for a year. But again, I only have a 2-year degree. I do not have a 4-year degree. I was in school for 6 years getting a 2-year degree. I couldn't take classes, full time like normal students. I had to take a class here, a class there. Like I said, I was a wife, I was a mother. It took me a long time. It was a battle that was well worth it. But yeah, did I answer your question?
Well, how did you stick with it? Because I'm asking because one, I was discouraged to go back to school at a later age. I'm like, I'm too old, blah, blah, blah. And then two, I'm like, well, I could go part-time. And then my brain's like, no, you want to get it done quickly. But from what I'm hearing is like, it's better to just get it done how you can get it done, but get it done no matter how long it's. And I love that. So, and I know a lot of people who will take a class, and then stop for a year, but they don't. Well, then it turns into 2 years and 3 years and 4 years, and then they don't go back and take another class. What made you say, okay, I'm going to take class A, I got to go back and get class B, no matter what the break is in between? Because the 6 years for a 2-year degree, I think a lot of people need to hear, like, how did you stay with it?
I got you. Okay, so I think for me personally, it was important for me, myself, to accomplish something that was never accomplished in my family, so to speak. It's been accomplished outside my family, like people that aren't related, like my uncle that's an engineer. But I think for me, it was more or less proving to myself that I can accomplish something. It was just that simple. In addition to showing my daughter that, if you work hard and you're dedicated to what you do, you can accomplish anything, really. You just have to put your mind to it. Anybody can do my job. They just have to put in the work to do it and to get here. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, it's just it was just proving to myself and really my daughter, showing her that, you know, with hard work and dedication comes great success and great things in life. So yeah.
Nice.
I guess
Okay.
along your journey, what would you say would be the best piece of advice that you were given, like as you were going through all these challenges and kind of like pushing through and continuing on?
Really, not to give up on myself. Don't doubt myself. My mom would always, you know, my mom, she never even finished college, and she was just like, you know, you have what it takes to finish, just finish. So just really never giving up is what people would tell me, and just to stay focused. And not to allow those failures to really keep me down, basically. Not to make excuses either. So I think that's really easy to do in any part of life, you know, so just not to make excuses.
It sounds like your self-talk is encouraging and not, what's the word, like, well, discouraging. It's not like it doesn't beat you down. So it sounds like you have a healthy self-talk, and then it sounds like you have a support system that believes in you and encourages you. Those are my two takeaways that and I think that was important to mention. That's what I'm getting from it. So if we want to, did you have a follow-up question, Iman? So we'll switch gears a bit.
Okay.
This is pretty different. So what do you hope people say about you when you're not in the room?
Ooh, let's see. That I'm a kind person, and that I'm yeah, probably just the fact that I'm a kind person, and I would give to people without them even asking. I think especially in this time, I think it's really important just to be kind and considerate, and think about other people, you know, and not so much ourselves and our selfish natures, you know. So just that I'm a kind person, I think I would appreciate if people thought of me that way.
I feel like you always have been, even when we were so. And I knew each other from, how old were we when we met? Like little.
Oh, 5, 6.
Something like that. And I remember you were always kind and always just willing to like share whatever you had. And you know, at 5 and 6, that's a big deal.
Oh yeah, you're right. At 5 and 6.
You're always willing to just like, you know. So
well, I thought you were the same. You know, our families have always been real close. So, you know, I really learned a lot from, you know, your parents' dynamic, you know, and so, yeah, I feel like the kindness I learned from not just my own family, but multiple families, you know, and your family was one of them for sure.
So what is, I guess, so another thing kind of switching gears is we talk about success in society in terms of having the right job. A lot of it is tied to, you know, like tangible things. And one of the things that me and Selena wanted to do is just kind of redefine success and what it looks like for everyone individually. So for you, what is success? And when are you, I guess, the happiest?
Well, success for me definitely can be something tangible, but mostly for me it's my daughter. You know, it goes back to my daughter, and she's an adult now. She's in college. How she lives her life, her outlook on life, that tells me every day that I've succeeded, you know, that I've brought a life into the world that is kind, that is smart, intelligent, strong, passionate. You know, that tells me how successful I am every day. Now, success you can have tangible things, obviously, but those aren't the most important things, I think, that scream success for me.
Love it.
Yeah.
When would you say you're like, what's your happy place? When are you happiest?
When?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when am I? I don't know if I can tell you when I'm not happiest, and that's waking up in the morning. First thing in the morning. I am not a morning person. That's probably like the only time I'm not happy is when I hear that alarm go off and I'm like, oh gosh, okay. But yeah, when I'm happiest, I think it is when I'm around my family, when I'm around my friends, just having a good time. I feel like I'm a pretty social butterfly, free spirit, whatever you want to call it. So I just like to have fun. I think life should be simple. It shouldn't be complicated, just have a good time, and live it up. So I'm happy all the time, I guess.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting like you now. When I was younger, I was fine in the morning, but now I'm like that. When I hear the alarm and when I just have to get up, I'm like, why?
Yes.
I'm cranky until I get coffee. It's crazy now.
Yes.
I was
Me
never
too.
like that.
That's the worst time.
Yes. Rising to coffee, don't talk to me because it's not going to be good. So they say, you just mentioned your friends. And so what qualities do your friends have to be in your inner circle?
Oh, that's a good question. I really never think of it like that. I just feel like I think you just mesh with who you mesh with and you click who you click with. I have friends of all different walks of life, all different colors, all different nationalities, all different religions. I think it's just, for me, it's, people will have their flaws no matter what. For me, it's just, how we click together, and how we mesh well together, if they're for me, they're for me. If they're not, we will know. That's basically it.
What's a flaw? What's a deal breaker? You have a friend, you're close, and what can they do? It's like, whoa, I know you're a human, but come on.
What's a deal breaker? Well, I guess in the past, I've had friends where they were looking to get something from you and not put anything towards the relationship. And I don't know if it's because, I don't know why. I really don't have an answer there. So I think if there is a deal breaker, that might be it, because I feel like it takes, in any relationship, it takes two people to work at it, So for me, I think it's like a give and take relationship.
Yeah. Is this something you would address first? Like,
oh, absolutely. I'm a very vocal person about when things bother me, and I'm pretty descriptive on. I will say I'll try to be descriptive on, specifics and why it bothers me. So yeah. I'll definitely vocalize and address the situation, if there is one. So yeah.
I just asked that because I really like the idea of like calling out our friends, so to speak, before we cut them off. Because I was recently, I'm like, we don't know how we come across, and we need our friends to tell us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're right. I think sometimes in our selfish nature, we get caught up in our own mind, in our own ideas of the person, and we already have a depiction of why they decided to act that way, when in actuality they were actually dealing with something, possibly, so I think it is always important to give someone the opportunity to express why they came at you a certain way. But now if that don't come out right, then there's still gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
What I was just gonna say, like, for someone that is listening and maybe wanting to get into a male-dominated field or, you know, kind of do something outside of the norm, what piece of advice would you give them?
Um, do outside of the norm. Just go after it, you know? I mean, whether it's a male dominated field or, you know, just go after whatever it is you want. You know, if you're the first person to get it, somebody, it has to be done. Somebody's going to get it. You know, if you're the first female that, you know, paves the driveway or something, you know, it has to be done. So, you know, just do it, just go after it, you know.
Have you ever felt intimidated or uncomfortable? And that might mean I'm projecting onto you because that's how I think I would feel. but but if you haven't, that's fine. That was never a feeling you had. And there was,
Intimidated, like how? Or
at
in what
work,
setting?
at work.
Oh, at work. Oh, absolutely. There was one there was one situation, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but there was one situation that, you know, you have to sometimes put on a poker face about certain things. And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, do you know what I'm talking? And I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, and I'm like, you know, sometimes I think intimidation comes because we don't have the full understanding. And so once you do, you feel more confident about what you're doing, you know? So for me, I think that's the only times I do feel intimidated is like, okay, do I know what I'm talking about right now? Or maybe I shouldn't be talking about this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you do? You said in those situations, you just put on a poker face. That's all you got at that moment.
That's all I have in that moment. But I think sometimes pride gets in the way too, where you don't want to admit that you don't know something or you know, that's why you feel intimidated or whatever. So I think there are times when I have to put my pride aside, and I do, and I'm like, okay, let me go back, let me backtrack and, you know, ask what this person was talking about, or I don't know. I'm thinking it in a knowledge sense, but, you know, intimidation comes in so many different ways. I think for me, most of the time, intimidation is just like in the form of knowledge and understanding.
Yeah.
So
There's this podcast that I listen to, and they talk a lot about the imposter syndrome, which is like, especially with females, where we're in a position of, you know, where we're like, oh, should I be here? Am I knowledgeable to be here? And a lot of times, especially like they were saying in male-dominated fields, there's this feeling of, oh, I'm lucky because I'm here. But trying to retrain your mind and be like, no, I've actually worked really hard to get to where I'm at, and I'm here. I have just as much right to be here as anyone else. So I think it's interesting that, yeah, I feel like you've kind of taken on that, and you're just like, this is like, I have moments of intimidation, but just take a step back, make sure I know what I'm doing, and keep it pushing. So
oh, absolutely. I absolutely feel blessed to be where I am. I learn something new almost every day. Laws change almost every year, so there's always something new to learn. In the electrical sense, I know nothing about electrical engineering. I'm going to be honest. I really don't know anything about electrical engineering, but my side, what I do is mostly structural. So there's always something new to learn for me. And I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah.
a lifelong learner.
Yes. You have to have a curious mind for that. So I wanted to ask real quick, no details personal about your personal life, but just any advice for someone, if you don't mind, going through a divorce. I mean, it's like, what are the numbers, 50%? So you ain't the only one.
Oh, that's true. I am not the only one. Respect in any relationship is a big factor. So just keeping the respect level with yourself first. If you keep respect with yourself first, then you'll naturally respect others, I feel like. So anyone going through divorce, and I don't know what their situation may be, if they're still living with that other person, if they're not living with that other person, if they're with someone else, who knows? Either way, I feel like while you're going through that divorce, you still need to have respect for each other until it's complete. And then when it's complete, go on with your married life, just go on and, be happy single or whatever.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to overstep, but
No,
I went through a divorce recently, so that's why I asked, because I need to look. I want advice. I'm sure other people, and it's not just self-serving, because I'm like I said, it's a lot. We're not the only ones, and
right.
I know it can be a tricky thing. The details are private, but the way we process it and deal with the situation, I feel like anytime I can help someone, or I can hear someone else's how they processed it and went through it. I feel like it's always helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, our reasons for divorce too are all different too. Yeah. So respecting the other person might not even be part of that. It sounds good, but it might not even be a part of it, right? Yeah. So it just depends on, each person's circumstance. But for me, I feel like if you can respect, your employer, you should be able to respect the person you claim that you love all these years, so.
Yeah.
And I feel like that takes a certain level of maturity too. So sometimes when emotions are high, it's easy to just kind of put all that to the side and just be very, angry with the situation. So I love that you're able to take a step back and be like, at the baseline, respect is going to be the forefront. So
right, exactly.
Yeah, and I love that, respecting yourself first, and then it usually transfers anyway. That's good for anything. It's just having respect for yourself.
Absolutely.
I feel like we got through the questions faster than I anticipated.
Well, Ty is very concise, direct.
That's why she's successful in her career.
I am kind of all of those things.
Is there anything, so I know that you said you're doing more of the structural engineering piece of things. Is this where you kind of see yourself being long-term, or are there other projects or things that you're seeing in the future where you're like, I eventually want to go down this route?
I will say this, I am looking to go back to school, but unrelated to engineering. It's been on my mind for a while, but I will be retiring from Nashville Electric Service. I have it really, really great at Nashville Electric Service, so I will be retiring there, but I do plan to venture into something new and fun just for myself.
Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That is exciting. Wow. And I just real quick, I love that that's really encouraging that I can go back to school and I don't have to go full time, because I was worried about that. I got to work full time and go to school full time. I can go to school 1 hour, for one class, and then ace that, because I won't be overwhelmed. And then
exactly.
Yeah, I love that approach, because the thought of it, a full time with the 4 classes, I don't know what it is now, it's daunting to think of that with a full-time job. Being an adult, your brain is not what it was in your 20s. I'm not a kid.
Oh, right.
So,
if there's anything that's intimidating to me, it is school, because there's so much you have to learn in a short period of time. Yeah. And that is a part of the reason why I could not take 3 or 4 classes, is because I didn't have that time, so, like I said, with knowledge comes understanding, and you're able to know what you're talking about. So
yeah, and you have a realistic approach.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because had I even not talked to you, I probably would have been like, I'm gonna go back to school with 4 classes, and then got so overwhelmed, and then get so burnt out that you like you can't, you have to, we're adults, so you have to keep your job. School's got to go. I can't, the job ain't gonna go because I got to pay these bills now. So it's like, I love that approach to it.
Oh, for sure. Well, whatever you want to do, go after it, no matter what. Even if you don't finish, at least you can say you tried, but yeah, go after it and just come up with a time when you want to complete it and, see what happens.
Yeah.
And I love that, because when you were like, I'm going to go back to school, my mind automatically went to career change. But I love that you're like, no, like I'm staying where I'm at. I love what I'm doing, but I'm doing this just because I enjoy whatever this new venture. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people do that. And a lot of people are kind of like, oh, if I'm going to go back to school, it's because I'm going to do a complete change of my career. And the fact that you're like, no, I'm just doing this because I'm interested or it seems fun.
Yeah.
Good. That's what life should be about, like doing the things that make you happy. So I love that outlet.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Well, I don't have anything else. I loved everything you said. I want to talk to you more, but I don't have any more questions.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you loved it. I appreciate that.
Anything else that you wanted to share, Ty?
Well, just again, if there's anything, any career, even it doesn't have to be a career. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, if your dream is to be a soccer mom just so you can yell in the stands, do it. Do whatever you want to do. You have this one life that you're living. Don't be scared, don't be scared to live it. And the way that you want to, just go after whatever you think will make you happy, basically. You'll find out if it makes you happy.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank you guys for inviting me. This was fun. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to meet you. It was nice meeting you.
Yes, it was nice meeting you as well.
Close out though, so we're gonna just do our little outro if you'll stick around for that.
Okay.
So again, thank you, Ty, for sharing your time with us and inspiring our listeners to redefine success for themselves.
And of course, thank you, listeners. We could not do this without you. Remember to like and subscribe, share this episode, and give us some feedback. We want to hear from you. You can listen to us at U Plus Happy Podcast. We're also available on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram at U Plus Happy.
And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And we ask our guests to say our tagline. It's pretty long here, but it is, we'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Okay, we'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Hey.
Did I do good?
That was like absolutely like perfect. The delivery.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.